Luke's Journal, inspiring faith at work.
Hi, I'm Koshy Matthew here with Paul Mercer, who was one of the previous editors of the Luke's Journal. So I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions, Paul. It's great that you could join us. Can you start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself?
So I'm a GP at the end of my career, working out of Brisbane. I've married. I've got 3 children and 10 grandchildren.
Wow.
My mother and father were CMS missionaries in Arnhem Land in Northern Australia, and so I grew up in an Aboriginal community as a kid, and that was a very good experience. A lot of freedom, a lot of good connections then, and I think it's been a big help to grow in that context. I actually became a Christian through the ministry of an African evangelist amongst these communities called Festo Kavenjere. He's a Ugandan, so been a Christian a long, long time, and I think these days I've moved past the journal. I'm trying to learn to write. I belong to the Holy Scribblers Writing Collective, and I've also been running in Brisbane an event for the last 9 years called Theology on Tap, which in lots of ways carries on from what I was doing in Luke's Journal as well. So I think that's me. As a GP, I have been a national chair for the College of General Practitioners, their Preventative and Community Medicine Committee. I've always had a strong interest in the sort of social justice issues in healthcare. I also very heavily involved in general practice training. So I've trained over 90 registrars and lots of medical students.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you've done quite a number of things over your time, and I was just interested to learn more about how you actually started with Luke's Journal specifically, and what led you to become the editor of the journal.
I went to the 2005 CMDFA National Conference, I think, and there was a member of the CMDFA executive at the time called Bill Haig, who's a doctor in Adelaide, and Bill said, "Paul, we need a new editor for Luke's Journal, and I think you're the person." And I said, "Whoa, I'm a busy man. What are you trying to do?" And so he said, "Oh, look, I reckon like if we can get a sidekick," and he had a person in mind, John Foley. We're both GPs, both had a pretty strong grip on general practice. John was involved in some academic work in Adelaide, and I've done, the college work that I've just talked about, and so we got together and we started an editorial team that went on for quite a while, and indeed I think John retired in 2016. So he and I went for nearly 10 years. So we started the last edition of 2005, and I finished in 2019. The last edition I sort of guided over the line we called "Laughter is the Best Medicine."
Yes.
So, so we reached the point of joy and laughter.
Yes. And I guess that's a good place to finish.
Yeah, I thought I planned it that way, I think. Yeah.
During your time over this 14 years or so, can you tell us about a bit of a highlight or a particular joy that you had managing the team or putting the journal together?
Well, the journal came on in its sort of professionalism and its presentation. I think that was satisfying. It was good to see it grow into a robust journal. And it served not only the fellowship here in Australia, but had significant international sort of subscribers. And while by the end of my tenure, the Generation X and all the internet stuff was starting to sort of gobble me up, I think in our time we achieved quite a lot with the technologies we had, and encourage people to write in a sort of serious way. I think it was a highlight to work with John Foley. He was very committed. He was a good, precise sort of person. So anything that I generated that looked a bit dodgy, he sort of pulled into line. But I think, I often had a flair for new ideas and doing something a bit different with the theme, and he cooperated very well, and we I think a highlight is all the editorials we wrote. Looking back at them, some of them are fantastic. Just in terms of my own development as a writer, I'm quite pleased with the editorials.
And I'm sure along the way, over this time, along with the way that you saw the journal grow, develop, and get better, there was also difficulties and challenges that you would have faced. Can you tell us about a particular challenge or a challenging moment that you had during your time and how you overcame it?
I suppose there are a few challenges. CMDF were always saying their budget wasn't big enough for the Luke's Journal, and it cost too much to print it and post it out. I'm not sure that was true. I think they wanted more staff and had to find the money somewhere. But anyhow, from a member's point of view, it was a good value for money journal to get. I think there were times when you had an edition coming up and articles hadn't appeared. So there were a few late night articles a few days before you sort of sent it off to the printer. It might have been a bit sort of empty-headed, I suppose, but that seemed to be a lot that fell to me. It was always challenging to get people to write who said they would, and everyone's busy and life happens. So things get put back rather than be kept at the front. But I don't think we ever had any sort of major catastrophes or crises or arguments with anybody. We actually had a section in the journal called Fire in the Belly, and that allowed people to say fairly strong things without it really representing where CMDF was at. And I think that was good. Let people get the stuff off their chest. Probably thinking about it, the biggest challenge was balance and keeping the broad church of CMDF alive and going forward together. So it's easy to go with the political polarizations, the left and the right, and there are Christians, very good reasons to get drawn to the left, and there are Christians for very good reasons to get drawn to the right. This is a fellowship where there's a unity in our fellowship, and the journal helps create that unity. So if it was a journal that was exploring ethical issues, I'd try and find balance. And that didn't always please the people who had the opposite side of the balance, but as an editor, finding balance was a very important part and sometimes a demanding part of what I did.
And I can imagine there would have been some pressure in that and some responsibility to stay true to the values of CMDFA and the faith more broadly, especially when having Christians with many different views trying to put their
that's right. So
paper.
Yeah, we developed a council of reference in case we had something that sort of got a bit too fired up for people. If as editors we were just a little uncertain, we'd ask them questions perhaps of the author and perhaps ask someone, a wiser person in this council of reference, to read it. and usually we were able to work things out. We encouraged younger writers, and so some of the younger writers this was the first time they were doing it, and from that developed the Winton Award for young. But Dr. Winton was the long-standing editor of the Australian Medical Journal. He never edited Luke's journal, but we conducted ourselves very aware of his presence in our past.
Yes.
Yeah. In fact, we've tried to respect the past and embrace the future. That's another way of thinking about what we've done.
Yes. And speaking of actually embracing the future, you've been there serving with the journal starting over 15 years ago. Did you ever envision Luke's Journal growing into the mediums and the formats and the distribution and the publication that it is now?
Well, I probably didn't really sort of see the value of the internet and the social media platforms and all that sort of stuff coming as well as perhaps other people have. I'm also interested that even during this time, more books have been published than ever in the history of the world. It's not as if people aren't writing and publishing. They are. But we've all somehow or other got reduced attention spans, so other ways of sharing ideas and arguments and debates and challenges can be helpful, yeah.
Well, it's been definitely a pleasure to chat to you about your experiences and your work and how you've really helped the journal grow and adapt and change. I just want to say thank you so much for coming and having a chat to us today, and for showing us this journey about how you've grown Luke's Journal into what it was so many years ago, into what you left it with, and leaving on a good note, having laughter as the best medicine.
I found two quotes in things that I'd put together. I thought I might just tell you. I found Romans 15:32, which it's not a sort of central verse to anyone's theology, but it says, Paul speaking with a yearning that I may come to you with joy by God's will in your company be refreshed. So this sense of a fellowship gathering in joy by God's will and being refreshed is I think a strong overall theme. And I haven't mentioned spirituality, but there's an encouragement to a holistic spirituality here in the journal. CMDF once invited a person called Canon Gideon from Uganda to come and visit us here in Australia, and he was the African World HIV Ambassador for AIDS, for the World Ambassador for AIDS, and he personally had AIDS himself, and he was a very powerful, wonderful Christian just to be in his presence. But one of the things he said was that love in any language fluently spoken heals. Love fluently ministered brings health, brings hope. And I think, if you really wanted to summarize the journal, it was capturing stories of love across the whole range of ways that you could approach the great love of God and opening them up as real stories.
Yes. And I think that's something which is continued, and it's quite unique and it's special about Luke's journals, that there's so many people from so many different walks of life who have just been opening up and sharing their stories of love, and it's been great to continue to see that happen throughout the years as well.
Yep. All right. Thank you very much for talking with me.
No problem. Thank you so much, Dr. Paul Mercer.